C1. You are listening at FameTV.info. Xiao Sa. He raised his head and looked around blankly. He saw himself sitting in a classroom. An exquisite old lady in her 50s was standing beside his desk, staring at him with a murderous look, and the whole class was looking back at him. He was sitting in the last seat of the group at the end of the classroom. You're already sleeping in the first lesson. Tell me, what did you do last night? Did you read another night's martial arts novel? The old lady's tone was urgent and angry, like a machine gun being fired. Xiao Sa remembered, wasn't that his high school math teacher, Xiao Qiming? This old lady had a sharp tongue and a rotten heart. She was truly good to her students and had a high teaching standard. She was one of the few teachers that Xiao Sa could remember. Xiao Sa had visited her many times after joining the school. The old lady should be around 80 this year. Why would she still be teaching in the classroom? Am I dreaming? Xiao Sa pinched his thigh and cried out in pain. Xiao Qiming scolded, "Ah, what? Crazy. Xiao Sa, you disappoint me. Do you remember what your ranking was when you entered our humanities 55th class? First place. But now, you have become the last place student. I really admire you. In a year's time, falling from first place to last place, you really are a genius. You didn't call me by the wrong name, Xiao Sa, you sure are carefree. Teacher, his name is Xiao Kiki, and he's a fool." A classmate sitting in the front row of Xiao Sa turned his body and looked at Xiao Sa as he giggled. Xiao Sa remembered, his name was Lu Gu, he was his classmate in high school and had a very poor grade. After graduating from high school, he went to the city's grain and oil machinery factory to take over his dad's job. His father was not yet old enough to retire, but he had retired with honor in order for his son to succeed him. The city's grain and oil machinery factory is a state enterprise. Golden Rice Bowl, envious of many students who did not get into college and were born in the countryside. Xiao Qiming grabbed a book from Xiao Sa's desk and threw it at Lu Ji's head. You're not a good person either. Second from the bottom, and you already have a face. Many students looked at Lu Gu and laughed. Lu Ji's thick skin was not annoyed. He bent down and picked up the book that Xiao Qiming smashed his head with. After looking at it, he shouted in an exaggerated manner, "Wow! Sagittarius!" Xiao Qiming snatched the book from Lu Ji's hands. With a glance, he saw that it was really Jin Yong's Legend of the Condor Hero. He became even angrier and pointed at Xiao Sa. Still reading wuxia novels? You're bewitched. Don't you know it's your third year? They were going to take the college entrance exam in less than a year. You are not Lu Gu, he cannot take his father's position in college and still carry the golden rice bowl. What do you have? Your parents are peasants. Do you want to spend your life in the countryside? Are you going to anger your parents to death? Xiao Sa pinched his thigh again to confirm that the scene before him wasn't a dream. He was actually sitting in the middle school of Tan State First High School, class 55, during the golden autumn. Outside the window, the familiar tall osmanthus tree was blooming with golden osmanthus flowers. Rebirth. He was reborn. We meet again when the flowers are falling. Last night, because he had made a fortune in the stock market, he was elated. He had a barbecue with some of his old friends at a street store, boasting and farting, and had a few cups of wine. He was a little muddle-headed about it. Xiao Sa looked at Xiao Qiming and laughed foolishly. This time, the old lady was angrier than before. You still have the nerve to laugh. Tomorrow is the first time for you to take the third month of high school. If you want to take the last place, call your parents over. Otherwise, don't come to school anymore. No matter what, he is still my student. I can't afford to lose face. I've never taught a student to eat duck eggs. Xiao Qiming fiercely cut Eagle's Shooting into 8 pieces and tore them into pieces before smashing them onto Xiao Sa's body. Only then did he turn around and return to the podium. Xiao Sa looked at Xiao Qiming's back and felt his nose go sour. How the F*** did I get reborn? What kind of melodrama is this? What about my home, which I've gone through so much, said so many things, traveled so much, and tried to do everything in my power to get it right? Where's my wife? Where is my child? What are they going to do now that I'm gone? How could he be reborn when his days had finally come to an end? With a long sigh in his heart, Xiao Sa returned to reality. He stretched out his leg and kicked Lu Gu, who was sitting in front of him. He whispered, "Scoop, what day is it today?" Lu Gu replied in surprise, "Did you really fall asleep foolishly? Today, September 26th. Xiao Sa thought about it carefully. He had taken the college entrance exam in 1986, and now that he was in his third year, it was in 1985. September 26th, 85, the day of his rebirth. What's so special about this day? Xiao Sa thought back carefully, but he couldn't recall anything. 30 years had passed, how could he remember such a small matter? Xiao Sa shook his head and focused his attention on the podium. Seeing that Mrs. Xiao was explaining a three-dimensional geometry problem, Xiao Sa listened to her and opened the book to look around. He was amused. High school math was still the same stuff. Trigonometric functions, plane geometry, stereogeometry, analytic geometry, sequence. To Xiao Sa, who possessed two worlds' memories, these things were nothing but a piece of cake. Especially since he had coached his son not long ago. His son had been groomed and sent to Tsinghua University by himself. That mathematics test result was the same as his son's back in the day, getting a perfect score. However, his son got 150 points and he got 120 points. At the time of his college entrance examination, his Chinese literature and mathematics results were all at 120 points, while his other subjects were at 100. Xiao Sa's high school grades were all top-notch, especially in physics and chemistry. He almost always got first place in every major exam. Xiao Qiming had just said that he was ranked first in his grade. However, when they were in the sophomore year, Xiao Sa chose to study in the liberal arts class, causing the entire school to drop their glasses. The reason was simple. The goddess in his mind had gone to a liberal arts class, but he did not care whether the goddess was scolding him or not. But the ending was very tragic. This year, in the second year of high school, Xiao Sa wrote many love letters to the goddess, but the goddess didn't reply to any of them. In the end, Xiao Sa couldn't help but secretly find an opportunity to confess to the goddess, but the goddess rejected him. Are you kidding me? The goddess has a noble birth, which one of her eyes has a poor Jiaosi from the countryside like you. Xiao Sa collapsed, hid in the dark and lost his soul, finally gave up on himself, fell in love with martial arts novels, and never recovered from his defeat. The result of last semester's exam was absolutely terrible, and there were two other courses where he simply ate a duck egg, shamelessly becoming the last in the class. There were two subjects where he did not take the exam at all and had scored a 0. There were also a few that he had casually accepted, but what was even more laughable was that he did not answer any of the questions on one of the exam papers, but instead was filled with the names of the goddesses, making a big joke at school. Fortunately, after being rejected by the goddess, Xiao Sa didn't continue to pester him, so the school let him off the hook. The school didn't care about him. What did it care if he ate and farted? What did it matter if he did? Xiao Sa scanned the class and found that his memory was correct. The goddess was indeed still sitting in the third row of the classroom. Xiao Sa let out another long sigh in his heart. He had no idea what kind of demon he had been possessed by that year, to think that he would fall in love with her so crazily. Xiao Sa, come up here and solve this question. At this moment, Xiao Qiming called out from the podium. This old lady was clearly extremely dissatisfied with Xiao Sa's decision to sleep late during the first period. She wanted to punish this little brat. Xiao Sa was stunned. Lu Gu gloated and turned to Xiao Sa with a smile. Empress Dowager Xiao is calling for you, why aren't you going up? The students all called Xiao Qiming Empress Dowager Xiao behind his back. 2 years ago, Lu Lanfang's evaluation book, The Yang Family's General, was in full swing. Among the villains was a vicious Empress Dowager Xiao from Liaoning. A student who had been tormented by the exam papers and homework arranged by Xiao Qiming gave this title to her, and it spread very quickly. All the students called Xiao Qiming that way in private, but only she didn't know it. Xiao Sa stood up. When he passed by Lu Ji's seat, he slapped the back of Lu Ji's head. Lu Gu screamed and Xiao Sa had already walked up to the podium with big steps. The whole class looked at Xiao Sa with sympathy. This guy was going to be punished by Empress Dowager Xiao again. As expected, when Xiao Sa stood in front of the blackboard, he picked up the chalk and stared at the blackboard for less than 3 seconds, causing Empress Dowager Xiao to snort coldly. You don't know the answer, do you? If you don't know, just stand by and watch. I'll call someone to come up and help you. Dai Shuwen, come up and tell him how to answer. Dai Shuwen was a student in the class. When he heard Xiao Qiming call him to stand up, he was about to go up to the stage, but he saw that Xiao Sa was already answering him on the blackboard, so he just didn't want to go up. Dai Shuwen was a student in the class. He was also a student representative of the math class, so when he heard Xiao Qiming call him to stand up, he wanted to go up to the stage. Listen to the full novel at FameTV.info, direct link in the description.